Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to Superconscious Sundays. How are you all today? There we go. Welcome, welcome. We are here for Superconscious Sunday, episode 6. We're going to be talking about the 144,000. So, this is a number that a lot of people have heard about. Maybe you have read about it. Maybe you've read the book of Revelations. It shows up in a lot of places. So, we're going to be talking about the significance of the number 144, the reason why it's important to start working with this number, and how to start cultivating and understanding yourself as someone who has been prophesized about. So, what do I mean by that? It really means that our ancestors knew that we were going to exist. They knew that there would be beings with this really ancient wisdom and ancient knowledge that would come back to Earth at a time in which Earth really needed a shift, when the Earth was going through its own dark night of the soul and needed to be reminded of the other side of the coin, the other side where we do get to experience more bliss, more pleasure, more success, more love, and stop being so addicted to suffering and pain and fear and lack. So, this is shows up, and we're going to be talking about this today, and also just the number 144, how it is within the golden ratio, and just all sorts of other things. And we're going to do a little activation at the end to start to integrate everything that we talk about today. So we're going to go ahead and start the way that we do every single week by lighting our candle. Dun, dun, dun. Setting the intention for clear communication, open guidance between us and our ancestors, us and our star families, the inner earth beings, the dragons, of course, always the dragons, and to just have a beautiful time together here in this space as we gather on this beautiful Sunday morning. Going ahead and lighting our incense from the same flame. Okay. And weaving it in the figure eight, pulling all polarities into the singularity, creating a sacred time and space outside of the rest of the world to come together and have a beautiful conversation and let the spirit guide us. Perfect. Okay. So, the 144,000. So, 144,000 is actually a natural number. And what that really means is that natural numbers are used in counting and ordering. They're just like an ordinary number, right? But you can see the number 144 within a lot of mathematical sequences. And I'm just going to make sure that I pull this up right. Yeah, so 144 also fits within the golden ratio, right? So you have 0 plus 1 equals 1, 1 plus 1 equals 2, 2 plus 1 equals 3, 3 plus 2 equals 5, and you keep going. And when you get 89 plus 55 equals 144. So 144 is like the furthest number out when you look at I wish I could show you my screen, but when you look at the seashell shape, 144 is like the furthest number on, and like obviously the golden ratio keeps going and going and going, but when you look at like a typical graph where it shows you like the 1, 2, 3, 8, 13, 21, 34, 144 will be on that graph, right? So it's one of those numbers that is built in to our natural environment, and it shows up in a whole lot of texts as well, right? So 144,000 shows up in the book of Revelation 3 different times. It's in Revelations 7, 3 through 8. It's in Revelations 14:1, and it's in Revelations 14, 3 through 5. So the biggest one is, is the one that we read about where this is the Revelations 14:1. Then I looked, and behold, on Mount Zion stood the Lamb, or Christ, right? Jesus Christ. And with him 144,000 who had his name and his father's name written on their foreheads, right? So this idea has always been like the halo, right? Like I have these gods and goddesses behind me. And yes, they're Hindu gods and goddesses, but you can see the halo behind them, right? It's a little bit harder to see it right here. The gold. And you see that on like Jesus and Mary and any Hindu, like any god, like even Zeus and Aphrodite, all of them would always have this like glow about them, especially around their head. That's the like universal signal for enlightenment, right? So while John, the prophet, whoever wrote Revelations, I can't remember, while he's seeing the mark on their forehead, most most theologians that I speak to they agree that it's more of this idea of like the radiant crown of light, meaning that it's 144,000 who have also reached enlightenment. And I knew someone who had done the math once, and it was like if there were only really 144,000 people that ever reached the same level of understanding as Christ, and they were able to move the shadows and the densities of up to 7 million people each, then you would be able to get to about 10 billion people. So like around the time that the full shift of Gaia into fifth dimension is also prophesized to occur, would be the time that all 144,000 were like awakened to their full potential, and they would be able to be the conduits for the energy to move the whole rest of the planet. Now, that idea is very savior based, right? It's based in this idea that one person is going to carry the sins of 7 million people the same way that Jesus carried the sins of the whole world, and however many people were on the earth or were practicing Judaism or whoever he considered was the world, right? So that idea, while it's one of the ideas, isn't maybe the most advantageous one, especially when you're talking with me. And I always tell you that there are no victims. Everyone's here to take responsibility and command of their own energy and take authority for your own energy. So today we're going to be talking about the 144,000 in a different respect, but I wanted to kind of talk about the main way, right? So Jehovah's Witnesses also talk about the 144,000 in that same way, that there's like only a certain amount of people that can get into heaven, that sort of idea. It's also 144,000 also comes up in the LDS Church, or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons. And they believe that sealing of the 144,000 relates to the high priests ordained in the holy order of God. So they're saying that there's only 144,000 high priests, essentially. And then there's also in some other traditions you can hear about is the inside of Islam, they talk about 144,000 is like the total prophets of Islam, and the total like the Sabah, or the like how many companions there were of Muhammad, is also supposedly 144,000, right? So this number 144,000 golden ratio keeps showing up in all these religious texts, and it shows up within the New Age design, like the New Age prophecies as well. Realism states that 144,000 species are going, or humans are going to continue humanity when the whole rest of humanity is going to be wiped out. All these different places. It's even talked about the Mayan long count calendar. So like the Mayan calendars were broken down into 13-month moon cycles, because there's 13 moons in a year, but their long calendar is 144,000 days. Okay. So again, this number 144,000 shows up in a lot of places. And the reason why it's important to connect to this as well is that in Hindu and Buddhist traditions, they believe 144 is the total amount of petals in your chakras. So the lower chakras accounting for 144 petals. If you looked at each chakra, they say the heart opens to 33, that the solar plexus opens to a certain amount. And then the crown chakra, when you get this whole enlightened thing going on, right, that is 1,000 petals a lotus, right? So they see all of the chakras as lotus flowers, and how big do they open. So again, 144 and then 1,000, right? So that doesn't equal 144,000, but it's like this total is 144 from my third eye down to my root, and then this is 1,000. So you have this number that keeps showing up, is all over the world in all different texts inside the golden ratio. So how can we utilize it as the superconscious leaders, as the ones who are here to lead the way to knowing that we can live in heaven on earth right now? Meaning you can choose bliss consciousness right now. You can decide that you are healthy, that you are wealthy, that you are rich, you are that bitch, right? There's a reason why these songs, conscious, high level songs, are starting to become more normalized, right? The artists who we used to read about all the time having drug overdoses and relapsing and all this stuff, they're finding Kundalini yoga. They're finding meditation. They're having access to this ability to start tapping into their own spirit. And then you got Ariana Grande like making music like just like magic, right? Everything that I want, I attract it, right? Just snap my fingers, keep my conscious clear. That's why I'm so magnetic. Like if you listen to the lyrics of these songs, they're pushing this higher consciousness already. And then we're going to be starting taking it a step further with the actual music production by interlacing like healing theta waves and solfeggio frequencies and stuff in there. But that'll probably take a little bit longer to get in there. But it will. That's the way. Okay, so how many of you, I want to just take a kind of like get a pulse on the group. How many of you guys have heard about crystalline DNA activation or the idea that your DNA is being upgraded right now by the solar codes or by the high energies or Schumann resonance or whatever? Like, let me get an idea how, so that I can see how much I need to talk about this, because this is where the dragon energy comes in, right? This is where we're going to really be, now that we have a really good background of what this number is and how deep it is inside of our history as humans. The rest of this is going to be how to activate it and how to work with it. So I know it takes like 30 seconds or so for this to catch up. So if you have any, um, what do you know about the idea of DNA activation? What have you been told? That sort of thing. I have that song in my head. I'm not gonna take your shit. Okay, so DNA activation is this idea that our DNA, like we have our coding DNA, meaning those are protein creating DNAs. So it's A, C, G, A, D, I want to say A, C, D, G. I don't remember. Anyway, the proteins that actually, like when you look at a strand of DNA and it shows the ladders and it's just the two that are like this, those are amino acid protein producing DNA chains that create, the whole idea of like you get one of those from your mom and one of those from your dad, and that's what's creating all of your physical features, right? The proteins inside the amino acids. We have, as far as scientists can find, 144,000 other genetic codes that aren't protein creators. So they call them junk DNA. Okay, you've heard this term, I'm sure. This, we don't know what it does. And we actually have multiple strands of DNA. We only ever see the two because it's the ones that like we know the most about when they're talking about gene splicing or like stem cells and all of that stuff. They're looking at that specific strand that is our coding DNA strands. But there are some studies will say there's 12, some say there's 24, some say there's 36, but there are, as far as I'm concerned, 36 strands of DNA containing 144,000 genomes that can be activated so that you can be more like, have that Christ consciousness, right? Have this, have that glow, show up and be the living legend here on earth, be the dragon, right? That's what I teach. I'm a confidence coach. I teach you how to own your weird, how to stand up vulnerably and authentically and fearlessly to do what is necessary on this planet to actually shift not just the consciousness, but the way that we're physically interacting with people, right? The policy creators, the community outreach, the education on health and wellness, all of these things, the whole life alignment that I teach, sexuality, relationships, money mindset, business strategies, all of this stuff can be infused with superconscious belief systems. And superconsciousness is truly just the understanding that while you're here incarnated in your physical, like unique form, like I am Karin, hi, nice to meet you, there are, you are also everything. You are the all, you are the light. And we're just fractals of it, right? It's like a giant, if you can imagine a giant spider web, right? A giant spider web in the morning covered in dewdrops, and each dewdrop is reflecting the light of all the other dewdrops, and in its own reflection is reflecting the light of all the other dewdrops. That is what we really are in this interconnected web. And that's what the stars, like if I am my foot, I am the sun. That's how connected we truly can be. That's what we get when we start activating our DNA. When we do the epigenetic work, or which is also known as ancestral work. Okay, so ancestral work has a scientific base in epigenetics where we've been able to find that traumas occur back 14 generations. Okay, 14 generations is the 1700s. Like, that's a long freaking time ago, right? And when you also start doing like how many ancestors you have, right? Like you have two parents, but that means that you have four grandparents, which means that you have eight great grandparents, which means that you have 16 great great grandparents, which means that you have 32 great 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 grandparents. Like you keep going out and you get to 14 generations. That's like 400 people, right? In your great, 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 great. So when you're doing ancestor work and you're clearing, you are working with those DNA strands that are some of your coding DNA strands, those protein-based DNA strands. And this is where shape shifting comes in, where you can actually start to shift your shape because you're doing the work necessary to release the karmic debts, to release the trauma bonds from your DNA, and to put your ancestors at rest. They were not capable of doing this work. They had so much more darkness. The veil was still like in full effect, the veil of illusion that was completely lifted in 2012. It was in full effect in the 1700s, right? Like hardcore. And all before that, the Dark Ages. Do you remember the Dark Ages? Right? We have the Renaissance where there's like a tiny little gleam, but then that's also when like all sorts of other things started getting shifted. So when we're doing the ancestor work, you can change your DNA. And I know this because I have. Like, I do not look the same that I did 3 years ago when I started doing this work. My voice is different. My face is different. Like, you can still look at pictures and be like, okay, yeah, that's the same person. But my body size is literally a third of what it used to be. Okay. I used to be a size 14. I'm now a size 4. So, and that's inner work, guys. I don't do the whole like gym hardcore diet, like none of that stuff. I eat very intuitively. It is mostly plant-based. Every once in a while, I will eat cheese or meat just if my body really needs it, but for the most part, it's plant-based. And I do like get out and I walk around or I go hiking in the summer, but I'm not like going to the gym all the time. My transformation, I absolutely attribute to the inner work that I've done in all the bloodline work, in all of the ancestral healing, and all of the past life work that I've done, right? As you're doing this, you're restructuring your DNA to no longer be attracting the old cycles, right? This is what it means to really be released from the illusion of samsara. Your karma is actually like a meat suit that you can just like zip and then like step out of. You can just step out of your karmic wheel and be completely reborn again. Like that's what we were talking about last week, right? With the resurrection of you. You get to be a whole new person because you've already done the healing. There reaches a point in your healing journey where you notice that you're no longer addicted to suffering, but you're now addicted to healing. You're always looking for the next thing. You're looking for the next webinar. You're looking for the next Reiki specialist or the new cool energy work that's going on. You still have old stories like, oh, I had an eating disorder. Oh, I had a sexual trauma, right? And it's a thing that you've been working on for 17 years. And you're like, oh, I'm still working on this thing. I'm just ready to let it go, but I'm still working on it. That's when you realize that you're no longer actually like, you really like that story. And that's okay. There's no judgment. You can decide whatever story it is for your life. But when you find yourself always looking for the fix, like the money fix. Okay, maybe this workshop's going to help me. Maybe this coach is going to help me. Maybe it's this money ritual that's going to help me. And you're looking for all these external sources to help heal your internal relationship with any energy current, money, relate like love relationships, business success, any of that stuff. You're now seeking outside of you, right? And that's not like Jesus never, Christ never looked outside of himself. Buddha never looked outside. Once you attain enlightenment, you realize that the only voice you hear is your own. Like you are always going to have your own inner conversation, but it goes from like, I need to fix things and I need to improve myself and I'm always improving myself to I'm just going to be this version of me, right? I'm no longer going to identify as someone who has an autoimmune disease, right? That's what I did. I shapeshifting again. I had fibromyalgia and degenerative arthritis. Both of those are completely no longer in my body at all. Anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, all of those things are things that I battled with for years and years and years and years. And as I did the work on my DNA, like really focused on my DNA, right? I wanted to clear this so that my children weren't dealing with it anymore, right? So you can clear your bloodlines and you clear your own DNA and you can start restructuring your own DNA and you can get healthier and you can get lighter. If you're someone who's like me, who sits out in the sun all the time, you might start noticing that your skin is like glittering. It looks like you like took one of those things from the early 2000s. You remember the like perfume from Victoria's Secrets that had like the dust and it was sparkles too, but it like smelled good. That's what it looks like you did to your skin when you're just sitting in the sun, and it's because you're turning crystal. Okay, crystalline DNA activation. That is what the 144,000 is actually truly referring to, and it is something that every single person on this planet is capable of reaching when they finally commit to the knowing of their worth as someone who is the divine physically manifested in form here, creating their own unique frequency for the betterment of humanity, right? This isn't just like a random 144,000 that is here to save 10 billion people. No, every single one of those 10 billion people has the capacity to open their channel and activate within them the 144,000 DNA codes necessary for us to really shift as a human race and be able to exist in the fifth dimension. Right now we can exist in the third dimension with how many DNA codes we have active, but as we shift higher and higher, we're going to need more of that crystalline base and less of the carbon base. Okay, I see I have comments, so I'm going to read them. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, sorry. My workouts used to be a lot now, more intense now. I'm into yoga and walking, but my body is showing I look my best yet. Amazing. That's amazing. Woohoo! Feel your best too. That's amazing. Yeah. See, working out, doing all those things for your body is super duper important. But you start to identify as someone who does that, right? You don't like if you're someone who never went to the gym and then all of a sudden you're going to the gym, guess what? You're now someone who goes to the gym, right? We start within this 144,000 is this ability to reincarnate within the same physical form, to have those 10,000 deaths, right? I did a whole live stream back in like November about this idea where you can die 10,000 times where or more in one singular lifetime, be able to allow for the ego deaths. I'll get on here and I tell you guys I'm a different person every single day because of the choices that were made yesterday. No, Pocahontas. What I like most about rivers is you can't step in the same river twice. The water's always moving, always flowing, changing, always flowing, right? That's life. That's the waters of life, right? That's the ability to flow and be in flow state is all about being in that water and always changing and always growing. But we have this idea of this ego, right? Like, oh, I have this ego and I have to overcome my ego, and what's blocking me, and where are my blocks, and where is my test, and oh, this is just another test from the universe. And we're still looking at enlightenment from this standpoint of, I have to go through all these trials and tribulations to earn it. We feel like we have to earn our enlightenment. And that's just because of how it's been built into our system. Like if you go to India and you tell someone, "Oh my gosh, I woke up this morning and I meditated and I realized I am God. I am God. It's freaking amazing. I'm God." And they would be all like, "Good job. Congratulations. I'm glad that you finally woke up." Versus in America or any of the Western countries, you say that to someone and they're like, "Blasphemy! You are not God the Father. You are not the Holy One, blah, 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 blah," right? You can't tell a Westerner. I can go to my Mormon neighbors and be like, "Hey guys, guess what? I know that I'm God." That would not fly. My kid would never be allowed to go play over there again, right? And it comes from this construct that we are constructed in the West and we're grown in the East. We're more of an organism. So when we look at the world from this more organic place, this all the world's a stage, right? And we are all but actors in it. That we are growing. That we start as this little seed, and within the acorn is implied the oak. That within the human is implied divinity, so that we can grow and we can be these conduits, because there will be more of us that activate to all of these strands. Sorry, there will be less of us that are able to get all the way than there are that aren't. Like, more people will not be able to get to this activation level than are able to at first, okay? And it comes from our ability as those who are doing the work, who are the star seeds, who are the indigo children, who are the crystalline children. And if we're not, we're the parents thereof, or are the uncles and aunts thereof, and all of these other things. We get to be the example of what it is to live heaven on earth. We get to be the example of what it's meant to be, a living angel on earth. Angels fly because they take themselves lightly. Devils fall because of their gravity. C.G. Chester? I can't ever remember his name. G.K. Chester, I think, is the person who has that quote, right? So the quote is, "Angels can fly because they take themselves lightly." That's what it actually means when it's like, when people are like, "High vibes only." No, bitch, it's not about like fake it till you make it. I'm only happy all the time. It's being able to have these really human, deep, heavy experiences of loss and grief and fear and scarcity and all of these things. And instead of allowing those experiences and the energy thereof to push us down and weigh us down so that we start feeling like we're being attacked, we're able to move the energy through our body upwards and use it and just like take it lightly, like it's all a fucking game. There are no stakes. There are no stakes, therefore you can't make any mistakes. There's no such thing as a mistake. And that's what's going on with this 144,000 activation, okay? As you are going through, and you're already doing it. If you're watching this live stream, you're already to a point where you've activated within yourself more DNA codes than your average human at this time, right? That's because my resonance field is so strong and I'm so secure in my own energy. I know who I'm attracting into my sphere. I know who's going to be watching. I know all of these things. So if you're watching this live, you're to a point where you're now ready to start working with this idea of the golden ratio. Why is it the golden ratio? Because it's those who have really come into this full awareness that life is just a giant spiral that we are all just playing different parts on, and that we can use that energy and create our own reality, right? That everything we want, we already have. Everything that we already have is all that we really need in our life, or all that we actually really want. If not, we would have something different. And that we're creating our own reality, and therefore anything that we desire, anything that we need will come because we're creating our own reality. This is knowing your divinity. This is your true sovereignty. This is being a dragon amongst humans. Okay? Because while I see a dragon in every person, they don't necessarily see it in themselves. And it's not my job to go like bang them on the head, like, hey, hey, you dragon, wake up. No, like it's never going to work that way. In fact, we know based on science, the more you try to fight with someone, the more they're going to like stick their feet in and like really dig into their belief systems. So instead, I come onto this every single Sunday and we have a little philosophical chat, right? I give you some ideas. What if it's this way instead? What if it's that way? I throw you some science. I do all these things so that you can see that there really is a whole other way of looking at the same planet that we are on together. And that whether or not you're living in hell or in heaven is completely up to you. There are plenty of people on this planet right now who are living hell on earth. It's fucking hell. They think it's the worst thing. They think that God made a mistake when he made humans, that you have to repent for all your sins, like that they're being punished because of their past life, all of this stuff. All of these, like, this is fucking hell. Earth is hell. And then there's a bunch of people that are like, Earth isn't quite hell, but it's like purgatory. It's like really just like, it's not a lot of stuff going on. It's very mundane. I wake up, I brush my teeth, I go to work, I come home. Like, it's just like robot down the conveyor belt from the maternity ward to the crematorium, like very flatline. And then there's those of us who know that planet Earth is a pleasure planet, who know that planet Earth is actually heaven. That there's so much to experience, that we get to have these human bodies that have feelings. Do you know how many beings in the universe like fight to come to earth so that they can have the experience that we're experiencing of being in heaven on earth, like in physical form? We can actually feel, right? The fact that you can feel is something that the Pleiadians and the Octurians and the Andromedans, guess what? They don't feel. They don't have emotions, right? That's why I say bliss consciousness is fucking boring, which is why you go out and make the tests anyway. You go out and you like have this beautiful life and everything's great, and then you make a problem. Why? Because bliss gets boring. But what doesn't get boring is having a puzzle, having some sort of big thing happen in front of you, and getting to choose to use that energy to go create something beautiful, to use that energy to go help and serve, versus using that energy to weigh yourself down and adding more chips to your shoulder. It's why I'm so big on my clients owning their posture. It's why I'm so big on my clients owning their connections to dragons, right? Get bigger and then get even bigger. The bigger you can get, the more you can stand as a lighthouse. Not that you need to go get other people, right? It's how big can you shine your light? The light within your crystalline DNA that's being activated when you do the ancestral work, when you do the astral projection, astral time, like travel meditations that you're doing, when you're working with the dragons and the star beings and Gaia, you are activating within you the non-coding DNA strands and DNA sequences that will allow you to more easily integrate into living on a planet that is inhabiting fifth dimensional space instead of third dimensional space like we are right now. Yes, so good, Stella. I love it. Earth is heaven. Oh my God, I posted that 2 seconds before you said it. Clearly, I'm in the right place. So good. Let's see. Okay, so owning the dragon part is really this thing that you get to decide that the energy of the dragon. So, like, the word dragon is one of the most etymologically pure words that exist. It's the reason why, on top of the fact that dragons just been in my life my whole life, why I love this word more than other words. Dragon breaks down to large serpent. Large is one of those words that it just exists, like large and small. It just exists. There's not really a way to break it down. Even the word great is like great or not great, right? It's one of those very dualistic words. So there's large. The word serpent breaks down to see clearly. And when you're talking about seeing, it's in reflection to light, okay? So to see clearly or light clearly. The word light also is one of those, you either have light or you have dark. You either have light in the room or there's no light in the room. It's one of those dual words, just like large. And the word clear is also a dual word, clear or murky, right? So you have three words, only one, maybe two layers down from the original word dragon, that really translates to large, clear light, right? A clear, large light, however you want to put that together. This is why I use the lighthouse analogy so much. A lighthouse doesn't come to the boats, right? No one, the lighthouse is not saving the boats from the shore. This lighthouse is standing connected to this giant cliff that is connected all the way down, that's getting banged into by ocean and storms and all of this shit, and it still stands and it still shines its big ass fucking light to give a warning, to be a guiding light, right? To guide the ship safely into harbor. But the lighthouse can't jump down there and save you. It's the same thing with dragons, right? Dragons are big. We tend to blow shit up. Things tend to get a little crazy and chaotic. And if you're not someone who knows how to work with chaos energy and knows how to create from chaos, understanding that the chaos is happening in your life is because the high standards that you have are not being met. That's the only reason why you have chaos. And because it's fun. Creating from chaos is fun. It's amazing to have all of this energy from the old world that is collapsing, all those people that are living that hell on earth situation, and knowing how to pull that energy out, clean it up, and then go create something beautiful. Go create art. Go create your business. Go create a beautiful family life and live that heaven on earth. Because the more of us that are able to do that and are not just doing it, but are doing it outwardly and boldly, and not just online, but like in our communities, like going out to events, commingling with like the natives, right? And just still being big and loud and weird, maybe not loud, but just like big and magnetic in yourself all of the time, right? No matter who, like you can say whatever, whenever to whomever, and you can own your shit and take responsibility for whatever consequences might happen from you saying it, right? But you can still say it and own it. And you're not worried about cancel culture, and you're not worried about any of those things. You're not worried about being assassinated. You're not worried about your family being kidnapped. Like none of those worries of the rich and famous even phase you, because you know that there are no stakes. You know that you cannot be destroyed. You know that you are here to serve a purpose. You have been prophesized about. You are literally in religious texts all over the world, in prophecies from all over the world. Dragon energy is life force kundalini energy. If you are channeling that energy, that heart, and that strong, that you are bold and you are beautiful and you are big and you know that you are a walking god or goddess here on this planet, then go run for office. Go start a nonprofit. Go infiltrate the fucking corporate world. Get the super consciousness out there. This is why I say it's not just knowing about the 144,000. This is calling you in. This is like, hey, I see you. I know you're there. I know you've had dreams about dragons. I know they're showing up in your meditations. I know that you keep noticing them all over the house and or all over the city when you go out shopping. And you're trying to figure out why is it calling you. It's the bigness of it, right? There's a lot of priests and priestesses, a lot of goddesses and gods out there teaching you the energy of like the rose, right? And I've talked about the rose a lot. It's a really powerful tool. But they're talking about a rose, like beautiful flower that I can literally like rip up and crush and like in 5 seconds. I like, no, they tell me to stop and smell the roses. Well, I burn the whole bouquet with my dragon's breath. That's a line from a rap song. Right? It's just like dragon energy is the energy necessary to have the ability to know that the old is breaking, it's dying, it's falling away, the patriarchy is crumbling, and having the ability to channel that energy and build something beautiful and build something gorgeous and have a way, an easy bridge so that the dazed and confused humans are like, I don't know what's happening. I hear that this is a safe place for me to be, and we've created safe havens, and we've created ways that we can integrate all of the society. We're able to infiltrate the media and the arts, right, in a way that the common person who just wants to be told what to do, that's the game they're playing, right? You're not playing that game. And you have to be okay that there's like a really large population of the world that is playing that game. You're not playing that game, or you wouldn't be watching this live stream. You're playing the game of, hey, we're going to play a new game. We're writing new rules. We're over here. And yeah, we're gonna come over here and we're gonna, dance with lightning. We're gonna play with thunder. We're gonna move the elements around. We're going to have true alchemy. We're going to know that the point of alchemy isn't going after the mundane gold. It's the power and the ability to distill and ferment and to mold and to shape, right? I'm a body worker. I will always be a body worker. I'm a massage therapist. I don't sculpt clay. I don't sculpt music. I sculpt human bodies with my knuckles and with my elbows. And we're able to put you back into alignment. And when you have your God body, all of a sudden, all of your channels are clear. Everything is so much easier to run through your system. But that level of knowing is still something that you have to hold in presence. You have to be able to hold this energy. So many of you are dealing with ascension symptoms, like your body freaks out. It's a new moon today and tomorrow. So I'm sure a bunch of people are like, oh, the new moon is blah, 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 right? I created a whole course called the Accelerated Ascension Bootcamp for this reason, so that you could start being able to hold the energy of the activation. If you're holding 144,000 genes all activated at once, you're going to like blow apart, right? Like we talked about last week with Jesus Christ, Yeshua, and his Ka body, how he was able to hold his light body together enough that his physical body was able to fall away, but his Ka body retained the same shape and form. Most people are supernovaing. There are so many light workers, so many brilliant people that I know who are either going fucking mad, like crazy, insane schizophrenic breaks, like they are literally in mental hospitals right now, are dying from random causes that shouldn't occur at the age that they're at, or they're just completely giving up everything and they're like choosing to go back and take the fucking red pill because they can't hold it. And that's why we need more dragons. Why we need more people that are like, I'm fucking big and bright and beautiful. And yeah, I can be president of the fucking United States and also be magically inclined. I'm going to read these comments. My dragons are lighting up everything in my life and burning to the ground all that was in my way. Hell yeah, Stella. That's the way the dragons do it. And they do. They will literally take anything that's not in alignment. And if you're just like me, I was just going down, I was like fucking tunnel vision down this fucking road of destruction, taking my whole beautiful life and fucking flame throwing it as I went through some really, really deep shadow integration over this last winter. And finally, my dragons literally were like, no, and cut that situation completely out of my life. Like, total 180 from what I thought that I was doing, because the standard, where the way that I was going was just like not going to actually get me to my goals. I am here to do big, giant fucking things in the political, economic, and social sphere, not be going around the world doing arts festivals. Although I will be at them and I will be teaching, but like it was just like such not what I've been wanting to do for years and years and years. And I had some hormones and infatuation and other things going on. But the point is, yes, Stella, like your dragons will fucking course correct you. And it can look really chaotic and really messy. And that's why you know that you're someone who's supposed to really stand up in this world when you can see that happening and you're just like, okay, I don't really know what the next level is, but if they're this loud and they're pushing me this hard, then I'm gonna fucking listen, right? Yes. Heartburn every other day lately. Yeah, exactly, Roots. That's exactly what's happening. So, heartburn can be stuckness between the solar plexus and the heart chakras. So try doing some breathing where you're really like opening that connection all the way up and through. And even your throat chakra can be like causing some of that, especially depending on where the burn is. But yeah, you have this heartburn stuff, right? Intestinal issues, fucking migraines, whatever is the physical thing that's going on. It's because you're not essentially you're not allowing your body to evolve because we've been trained to believe that evolution takes generations and generations. And in many ways it does, because the blood work that I'm doing, the ancestral DNA work that I'm doing, my children won't need to do very much, but they were all born before I started doing any of this work. So they all had my old belief systems and all of that coded in them. My oldest more than my youngest, but they were all born before my Kundalini awakening. So while I've done a ton of work for them and they don't need to do nearly as much, there will be things that they will need to clear out for themselves that I can't do, but I can guide them, right? That's my job as their mother, to teach them these ways. And then in another couple of generations, guess what? My great great grandchildren aren't going to have any of these wounds. They're not going to understand the idea of lack and scarcity and fear, and like that was like our main survival mechanism, because we'll have a whole new planet by then, right? We'll have this beautiful utopia of a human race that comes together with different ethnicities and different heritages, but knows that we're one race. We're one planet under source with liberty and justice for all. All the species are getting included. All the like everyone is getting a chance to sit at the table, right? And then that's when the interstellar reelings and the dragons and the fae and all of that will be able to start appearing regularly again, because they used to in our old stories, right? In our old mythologies, which is why I teach mythos to my clients. Everything with me is the myth. Everything with me is your story. Everything with me is how can you live the most legendary epic adventure of your life and do so with responsibility, authority, a whole lot of fun, and a whole lot of magic. Because we're literally shifting our DNA, guys. We're shifting our DNA. We're changing the game. We're doing so by being conduits of light and allowing ourselves to get bigger and bigger and bigger. We're not just a little flame. We're a giant forest fire, right? And yeah, shit's gonna burn. It's just gonna, it has to. It's death and decay are a part of the life cycle. Shiva destroys so that we can be liberated. Destruction is not something to be feared. But the human is so afraid of it. And then the ego's job literally is like a radar, right? Its job is to go bleep, 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 bleep. Is there any danger? Is there any danger? And that's really it. That's like the only part that the amygdala is like, is there any danger? But if you start identifying with the part of you that's tracking danger, guess what? You're going to be neurotic and stressed and anxious and always like searching for the next test from the universe and the next trial and the next tribulation and blah, 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 the next block. Oh my God, the amount of people that are like, I just need to learn how to unblock. I'm like, what if you just don't have blocks? You're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. And that's why people come to me too, because I'm tell you how it is. You have accelerated growth. My vortex of ascension is like, because I get bored. I get bored with people and their stories. I want to see what you're going to do next. Watching my clients get over their hump and then go create some badass shit they never even imagined is what I live for. I live for witnessing my clients serve themselves in such great capacities as I'm holding them in the space of watching their dragon be born. I'm the dragon doula. I don't birth your dragon for you. I just hold you while you're doing that. And you crack open in all these different ways, and I can help you with getting that shell off and cleaning yourself up. But then I want you to go fly. I want you to do great, big, amazing things that I could never do. I will be your biggest cheerleader. I will be your stage mom behind the scenes, getting you ready for your costume change, right? And I can do this because I work with the number 144 all the time. I work with this idea that I am whole and complete, that all 1,000 chakra petals on my crown are open. Every chakra is as open as it can be. That everything's aligned. I think of my chakras as like a telescope, and there's the big lens that comes in this way, and then each one has its own little lens that I can flick to shine forward. So I'm just blasting the world with rainbow light all the time, and crystalline light, and dragon energy, and Ka body energy all the time. And then I magnetize to me the people that are ready to go do that for themselves. They're ready to go be lighthouses. They want to know what it's like to just be a god all the time, and not to have to, hey, come follow me, hey, pay attention to me, but this is who I am. I don't know how to not be this. That off switch I used to have, yeah, that's just broken. It burnt out, right? It overloaded. I can hold so much energy that I'm not worried about energy vampires or any of that stuff. You want some of my energy? Here. Here, like literally, guys, here's some heart energy and some throat energy and some sexiness energy. Okay, ready? Here you go. It's all for you. Because I'm just constantly regenerating, right? I'm like Doctor Who, constantly regenerating, constantly pulling the energy up from Gaia, pulling it down from source, moving it in my body, working with my body, working with my ergonomics, working with my mind body soul connection, working with my physical, mental, emotional, and physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual levels, and integrating them all. That interdependent web of life is me and my microcosm of my own personal life, and then interacting with all of you and all the rest of the world. Even when I'm alone in nature, it only is existing because I am existing, and it is existing simultaneously. Either of us stop existing, the whole situation stops existing. When I walk, I see my energy flowing out of me and all around me. It's beautiful. That's amazing. Yeah. We're all starting to do this. We're all starting to cultivate this. And I'm just here to remind you that we have work to do, but our work isn't work, right? Our dream job isn't labor. It's play. It's dance. It's singing. It's art, right? We're in a spiritual revolution. I would rather call it a renaissance, because that's where you're going to see these changings occur, right? The healing modalities that are being created and cultivated, this beautiful way that others are teaching how to go from being unconscious, whatever you want to call it, right? I don't like the word unconscious because it like implies like dead, but right, unconscious to conscious to super conscious, or just moving through from being living in hell to living in purgatory to living in heaven. However you want to phrase that journey, we are here to be the guides. We've already done it. We all had our trauma. We all had our tribulations. We all had our shitty childhoods. We all had all of those things. We have our past lives that we can remember, all of the shit that happened. And it's because we're here to be way showers. We're here to show this is, guess what? I have all of my DNA activated and I didn't die or supernova or explode out of my body, so you can do it too. And the more of us that do this and show up authentically as us all the time, again, with your parents, with the clergy people, with the politicians, right? Start showing up and go take your senator out to lunch now that they're no longer doing, they're no longer in legislative session, right? Start getting to know the people that are making the policies. Go find a lobby group that you support. Start getting involved so that these policies are easier, and the way that things shift can just be so organic that it's just like when the revolution happened in America. Not everyone was on board. There were whole towns that were like, if you're not paying with British money, you can't shop here, right? But eventually, everyone converted, right? And maybe not so much during the Civil War, right? We still got a bunch of Southerners who maybe think that should have gone the other way, but for the most part, still there too. Like eventually, the consciousness shifts. Eventually, back in the 60s and 70s, Alan Watts was talking about this, and we're actually getting there. Alan Watts talks about how when they first had the idea of like electricity inside the house, people were like, that's fucking witchcraft. No way. My house is going to blow up. Not putting that shit in my house. Now everyone has electric light. Same thing with relativity. When Einstein first put out his theory of relativity, everyone was like, no. And now most people understand that time is relative, that we are relative to space and time and all these things. It's the same thing with knowing that you're divine, knowing that you are a God here manifested in the physical form of human having an experience. You are not your thoughts, you're the thinker of your thoughts, right? Your ego is your highest self. Your highest self is your ego. Why? Because your ego never exists outside of your idea that there's an ego. And as soon as you catch your ego, it's going to be who you are now. You're going to keep improving. That's why I say, like, don't get addicted to improvement or self-help. People get addicted to the self-improvement, personal development industry. That's why there's a fucking multi-billion-dollar industry in coaching, because people get addicted to it. They just move from one coach to the next coach to the next coach, the one healer to the next healer to the next healer. And that is the old way. The Aquarian way, the age of Aquarius, is about teaching you to be your own healer, your own psychic, your own everything. Reaching out for support. Yes, this isn't about ultra independence, but it's about being able to cultivate your own personal daily discipline. So, your daily discipline with working with the number 144 is very simple. We're going to use the Hindu Buddhist idea of it because it's really easy and most people can connect to it. So it's taking a few minutes to get centered, and then going through each chakra one at a time and just allowing it to open to its full capacity. So you would imagine each chakra in its color. I'm trying to see if I can. And the first one is the root. Okay, so the root chakra has 4 petals. And the sacral chakra has 6 petals. The solar plexus has 10 petals. The heart chakra has 12. This is different than what I've seen before, but just open it to, I'm going to read it through. 12. The throat has 16. The throat has 96. And then the crown has 1,000 petals. So when you're opening these up to these different levels, you can either, those numbers work, or if you've heard other numbers, the point is to focus on each chakra as if it was a lotus flower and command it to open to its fullest potential, totaling 144,000, right? It's 144,000 idea of all these petals, all of the opening, every gene. Or if you want to activate all your genes, you can close your eyes and you can imagine getting really, really small and going into one of your cells, going through the whole mitochondria, getting in there, and then going into the nucleus and stepping onto your DNA strands and going in there and activating all 144,000 genetic codes. Those are 2 different ways that you can add to your meditation practices in the morning, just for a few minutes, to really start building this connection to this number that is within the golden ratio, that is within all these texts, that does remind us of our connection to the divine, that can awaken within you the remembrance that you are someone who was prophesied about. I will not stop talking about this, okay? We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones that the earth has been waiting for to help wake up Gaia from her dark night of the soul. And we do that by shifting all of global consciousness and by working together. It's time to stop with the bickering. It's time to stop with the, well, this healing group doesn't fuck around with this healing group. And, well, there was some allegations about this dude, but other people say that he's fine. We are all on the same fucking page, people. There is no one healer that is better or worse than the other, okay? Everyone's going to find the perfect healer for them. They're all going to work with the exact person necessary. Guess what? I have clients out there that have worked with me, and the experience that I was supposed to have with them was fucking horrible. Like, no, not doing that again. But I needed the experience of working with that client, or vice versa. Like, working with coaches that, like, the third one I'm like, ah, fuck, this is non refundable. Oh my God, this sucks. Right? to have those experiences to set my standards. And guess what? As standards get set and you get more connected, then the chaos slows down. And the only chaos that's really happening is the shit that's meant to be like, hey, you're not in alignment, wake the fuck up. But you're no longer feeling tested. You're no longer feeling like shit happened to Jesus Christ all the time. But he never felt victimized by it, because he was one of the few beings that has walked this planet fully aware on all levels of his being that he was the divine manifested in human form. That is now all of our jobs. That's what it means, the Christ as you, to be channeling divine feminine Christ consciousness or divine Christ consciousness or whatever it is, to be channeling the life force or to be working with your prana or to have your kundalini awakening or to work with all the chakras. Like, they're all saying the same thing. All of them. It's all saying the same thing. You get to this point where the stories, why did I start this live stream by telling you about all the different places that 144,000 shows up in our society? Because you start to see the pattern of life and the pattern of ways things have gone. And if you're like me and you're a fucking person that loves puzzles, you start seeing a pattern and you're going to go figure it out. And you're going to get that whole piece of that puzzle and you're going to be able to start filling in the missing pieces. You're going to go find that piece that fell underneath the coffee table and be able to fill it in. But you can't do that if you're not looking. You don't even know what fucking puzzle. You don't even have an idea of what your puzzle's going to look like at the end. And that's the game of it. We literally all decided that we were going to come and play in a puzzle, but we were going to forget what the puzzle looked like. And the puzzle just happens to look like happiness and love and bliss and like wealth and success for everyone. The puzzle actually looks like a world where every man, woman, and child has access to healthy food, clean water, shelter, medicine of whatever works for them, and education. And that they're able to be set up to create a positive life experience. Again, we live on planet Earth. Whether you choose to have a positive life experience or not, that is completely and totally up to you. 1,000,000 bajillion %. No one and no thing has power over you. There are no victims. You get to choose your life experience. Those are the 3 fucking rules of this planet. That's it. There are no victims. No one and no thing has any power over you. And you get to choose your life experience. You want to have a positive one? Go for it. You want to have all of those things still set up for you and still choose to go be a heroin addict? Go for it. It's your choice. You have all those things set up for you and you still decide to go be a rapist or a murderer, that's your choice. That's one thing that a lot of people don't like, but it's true. We're all playing a game. We're all playing a role. I'm sure that there will still be a murder trial in New Earth. I'm sorry, guys. It's just like, that's probably going to take a lot longer to get out of our human system. And that's okay, because we have to remember what the Earth game is for. The Earth game is for duality. That is why it exists. It's a place within the cosmos for beings to exist in corporeal form, to feel, to have the senses, to forget that they're gods, to forget that they're eternal, to forget all of that, and come and experience duality. That is what the game is. Now, are the rules for the game changing? Yes. Will there be any duality in the 5th dimension? I don't know. I can just tell you what the rules are to the game right now and how to play the biggest, best game of your life, and to do so in a way that's going to teach other people how to play the game, their biggest, best game of their life. Right? When you're tuned in, when you're tapped in, when you are turned on to the dragon energy, the pure primordial creation and destruction energy of this universe, you get to be whatever the fuck you want to be. Show up weird, show off authentic, show up fearless, magnetize, be sexy, be intelligent. You get to shine clearly, and you get to be a large light that is shining clearly. Big, big, talking big, no, get bigger, right? Don't just turn on some of your crystalline DNA. Don't just don't turn on your psychic abilities just like a little bit. We want that shit turned up. We want all of that turned up in every person that we can, because it will make it easier to shift our planet. It will make the global shift easier if there's more of us that are blasting the same music loudly. It might not be the exact same song, but it all harmonizes together very beautifully. Okay. Thank you guys. I love you. Let's see. Perfect. Thanks so much for being here, guys. I love you so much. I adore these lives every Sunday. Be here next week, same time, 10 a.m. Mountain. Thanks for being patient today. And if you have any questions, if you're interested in anything that's going on right now, feel free to DM me, DM me, and we'll chat soon. Okay. I love you.